You are now listening to Operator.
Good afternoon, good evening, good afternoon, good evening, good day. I'm not hearing myself in the headphones. Although,
I am hearing you.
yeah, you're hearing me? The wrong headphones. Okay, this day is starting really well.
Unplugged.
It got unplugged? Oh, welcome to
Think
my.
this one.
Let's do it like this. Okay, yes. Here we go again. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. This is the early current. I feel like a freed soul because I really needed to go to the toilet just before the show started. You're listening to the early current number 31 already. My guest was asking me how long I've had this show, and it's been 3 years already. Shout out to the operator crew. Today we have a very special guest. We have Mark IJzerman, IJzerman. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm just it's IJzerman, and he's gonna tell us about his practice, about his compositions, about his latest release, Flounder Maps. But first, we're gonna start off by listening to one of his compositions, and it's called Extinction Retention, and then we're gonna continue with the interview. So here goes. extinction retention.
Extinction retention.
Yes. Number 2 of side B of Flanders maps. Welcome, Mark IJzerman.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here in Rotterdam on this Ascension Day. First, tell us where your musical journey began, and as in your compositional journey. I mean, of course, all of us we encounter music at a very young age. But when did you start composing? Was it during your studies at HKU? Because you studied at HKU, you studied technology and music.
Music technology. But it started before that because my parents asked me or they wanted me to play an instrument basically. Like some parents want their kids to go on sports. Mine also wanted that, but they also said, okay, let's go to the local music school and see what kind of instrument you like. So I was trying saxophone, I was trying different things. And then I entered the room with keyboards, and these had like nice knobs and buttons and a diskette slot. So floppy slot. Yeah.
Nice.
So I thought, and I was really a nerd already back then. So this triggered me. So I wanted that one. Yeah, of course, I didn't know that this meant that you had to learn keys, So I had to learn piano basically, but with light keys. You don't really do a lot with the diskette with the floppy slot, except if you want to play a MIDI file, which you never do. So I started that, and then when I turned like 14, 15 or so, I became more in a rock phase, and I was asking my keyboard player, like, how do I play System of a Down?
Oh wow! on keyboards.
On keyboard.
Wake up!
Yeah. And this guy would try
to transcribe it.
Yeah, he was like listening to it and be like, oh okay, and then trying to transcribe it the best he could.
You also chose one of the most difficult kind of
bands. Yeah, I think they even have these microtonal things in between.
Yeah. It's like, okay, interesting.
Yeah, so that didn't really work, and I switched to guitar. My dad already played a bit guitar, so I learned a bit from him, and then got a guitar teacher, and so that became my main instrument. And then I started playing in local bands.
So rock. Predominantly.
Yeah. So the first band I had was in the music school. They tried to put people together, and this was still in the keyboard phase. And of course, because no one wanted a keyboard player in their band,
rock band,
all the keyboard players would be put together in one band. So it was like 5 guys. Yeah, 5 guys, and then one of them had to sing, and these were all these nerdy guys. So. They were singing like the final countdown.
Nice.
And then everyone was playing the riff on the. So that was the beginning, and then there was I saw like an ad somewhere in the hallway, that they were looking for. There was a band looking for a singer, and I knew one of the people on there, so I contacted them. They came to see this really shitty keyboard band, and then they invited me to rehearse with them, and
they saved you.
Yeah, they became a Deftones cover band. Actually.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. That's cool. That's good.
Yeah,
that was a big improvement.
And later, of course, I started studying music technology and using more the computer and throwing like computer mics into guitars and sampling that.
Basically going back to the experimental stuff and
starting with the experimental stuff.
Nice. So from that you went, of course you finished, because I saw you did your bachelor and your master at HKU, right?
Yeah.
What was your final project?
My final project was actually on teaching kids about. It was a very educational project about kids, teaching kids about music in a different sense than the Western music notation way, because we all learn these intervals, etc., etc. But I was interested in doing something in primary schools about sounds in a different way, more opening them up. So it was a project called Minute of Listening, and I co-developed this when I was doing my internship in London, and then I brought it back to the Netherlands, called Luisterminuut. because it was, especially then, was a time when there was a lot of education in schools. It was all quite rushed. Also with schools maybe in certain neighborhoods outside of like in the periphery, they didn't really have time for culture. And I thought of this way, together with the people of Sound and Music, where I did my internship, to do something about sound and then connect it to more of that. So the whole setup was, we listen, can be done in 1 minute. So you listen to a short sound, less than 1 minute, you discuss what the kids think they heard, you play it again, and while they know what it is. So you get this sort of imagination going.
Nice.
You can connect a lot of things to it. You can say, okay, let's all move with the sound the second time you play it, for example. Or you can say, okay, this is an instrument from this country with this culture, etc., etc. So that was the first.
Nice. So, and because for what I read and for what we met each other also during like we were both working somewhere at the festival as artists, of course. I was introduced to your works together with Sebastian. It was with Sebastian, right?
Yeah, with Sebastian Robert.
That you were working in the ecological field, basically, or already, right? And when did this start for you? When did you start to incorporate this theme? Because it's like a center theme in your work, in your works.
I think this was like I graduated in 2011, 2012, and then for a while it was also a recession, cultural recession, so it took a while. And then I was looking basically like for an own voice, something that really resonated, that you can build, that feels good to build your work on. And I was doing a lot of audiovisual things, and I was incorporating satellite imagery a lot. And then back in 2019, I did a residency with Valley of the Possible, which is a refugio for artists in the Chilean Andes, run by Olaf Boswijk, who used to run clubs in the Netherlands. And they started this refugio there, and because I wanted to do a project about old growth deforestation, so old growth forests that are being cut down and what that does to the local community. And that was the first, I had the first realization there that you have to be in that landscape. You have to, touch the soil. You have to record. You have to put microphones in the ground, etc., etc. To have this embodied knowledge of it, to make something which says more than just the surface. So this 2019 is when I really started with this, and then everything that followed is basically also what came out of this residency. And I realized, okay, this is a topic, and later more topics related to water, which really resonate with me, and I feel that this is what I want to base my work on.
Of course, and especially because we're surrounded by water, and water is such a big entity in the Netherlands. Of course, should I call it like this? Right? Yeah. It's part of the culture itself. When you started to incorporate this theme of water, was it that you came up with the idea and then you started to create around it? Like, okay, I want to work, my next project is going to be like, the main theme is going to be water, and then you start to make derivatives of it, like try to like, okay, main theme, you know what I mean?
No, I think it was I was interested in how, especially, water is so important for like the transport, like the work I did here in Rotterdam, actually, with V2. There it was very much about the port area and how the port area changed over time, etc., etc. But it also touches on modern day technology, as in AI has to be cooled by water, data centers have to be cooled by water, so that it has this tentacular quality, which to me is super interesting to work with, because it touches on technology, being critical of the technology that I like to use, but also on a sort of societal impact, and especially being in the Netherlands, of course, we're very much impacted. And personally, I have a certain ear problem and I cannot dive because of that.
Oh wow.
So there is I would love to dive, but I won't get further than snorkeling, let's say. So there is this sort of forever wonder of what if,
Yeah.
which is also more of a spiritual
Nice.
driver.
Nice. So yeah, you were mentioning the project that you did in Rotterdam. I also read about it, and I saw your works at V2, Peer Pressure, PIER. If someone is looking for it, yeah, Peer Pressure. Tell us a bit more about your project, and so this was the first project that you started to incorporate the theme water.
Yeah, I think so. I think this was very much the first project which was very much focused towards water, where I also realized that if you have a body of water and you incorporate multiple views on it, that leads to a very interesting work. So this was a work together with, it was funded by the EU, like STARTS, which is about science, technology, and the arts. And I was very happy to get this grant, which allowed me to focus on a year on this project, which almost never happens. So I was able to go out here in Rotterdam and meet with ecologists who work in the port, but also with the shanty choir, for example, and with people from the municipality who are talking about, okay, we need to involve the water more in our cityscape. So this was a very interesting research.
Yeah, for the people who don't know, that Rotterdam, of course, was built. My father was actually a sailor.
Ah.
Yeah. So if it wasn't for the water, I wouldn't have been here. But yeah, so the city of Rotterdam was built around this whole harbor port kind of construction, and it's like, speaking of entities, it's like this ever-growing entity, and then there's this big corporation that's taking, that's been a part of urban. The urban identity of the city, and also the buildings and everything, like the placement of certain buildings and how things are expanding, basically, right?
Yeah, because it used to be a delta, of course, and Rotterdam used to be, which is also why it became a port city. But then to make it faster and stuff, they make the delta way more deep and less wide, which is now a problem with rising waters. So, yeah, and this is what the work was reflecting on. From different perspectives. So for those of you who haven't seen the work, it's an aquarium, a really big aquarium with an overgrown oil barrel hanging in it, overgrown with species from the port. I chose a place where there's a cement factory which causes more calcium in the water, which is why it attracts a certain species that wasn't in the Netherlands until the 80s or so. So the trompet cocoa worm, or the Australian tube worm. There's a really funny name in Dutch. This is the aquarium is there, and then when you approach the aquarium, 3 shanty singers from a shanty choir, so these elderly men who sing seafaring songs, they step into view on 3 screens, and they basically sing a song about how the Rotterdam port is, and always will be the same. But this is, of course, not the case. So that was the work, looking at this port of Rotterdam from these distinct views.
Perspectives.
Yeah.
And while doing these works, how do you come up with the themes? Like, is it like a process of research, and then, and then you just have this eureka moment, like light switch comes on, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna work on this algae and work with you're gonna see. Do you see, like, is it like, okay, I see it in front of me, and then you have to work and make the theme, and etc. Is it like this process?
No,
for
it's
you?
also a bit where, of course, we also live in a cultural field where opportunities have to arise,
Yes.
Or you have to, So very often it's about, there is an opportunity to work somewhere for an extended period of time. And if it is close to a place that has my interest, then I would go for it. So yesterday I've done a few works about water in different locations, also very much outside of the Netherlands after this work that we just talked about. And recently, with another artist, Ildiko Horvath, we started researching the Sloterplas in Amsterdam, which is like a man-made lake, that they dug for the water management of that area in Amsterdam, in the west of Amsterdam. It's also the opportunities that came before, but also reflecting on that. So now I reflected on it in the sense that I've been outside of the Netherlands a lot. I also need to look in my own backyard, so to say.
Keep it close.
Yeah.
Interesting. What have you been inspired by lately? I mean, could it be like because you were saying like, okay, you have to come closer to find what's close to you. Of course, sometimes they say the grass is greener on the other side. Because you started off in Chile. For the people who don't know, you've even been to the Arctic Circle, where I know like tons of people would love to go and experience. Have you been inspired by like local philosophers, writers, or composers, or anyone that you lately have been like really inspired by?
Yeah. I think like reading wise, I recently read a book called Sing Like Fish, which my girlfriend gifted to me.
Nice.
Which was
spot on.
Because it's by Amarina Kingdon. It's like a popular science book, I think, but it's very much going into the sound that fish make, which is a very underdeveloped area of research, it turns out. I would always listen with my hydrophone, my underwater microphone, and then I would think, okay, this is probably a fish, but I don't know what it is. And then reading this book, I found out that actually this whole field is underdeveloped, and I learned a lot about the history of how we can listen to these underwater environments, which is very much tied up in the military history, of course. So that's been on my mind the last few days. Other things that really inspire me are other artists. So, for example, I work quite closely now with Sunju Lee, who is a South Korean artist who lives in The Hague now. And she makes a lot of work with microbial fuel cells. And that might not
doesn't ring a bell. I'm like, okay.
But it's basically a pot of mud.
Yeah.
You stick 2 electrodes in the pot of mud in a simple way. And then you can basically harvest the energy that the microbes that are composting the soil shit out. So there's microbes in the soil. Also, for example, if we would go out and find a puddle of mud and would grab that, there's microorganisms that are composting this, and they basically fart out electrons. And there's a way to get those electrons, and it makes you think about energy and energy systems, etc., etc. So that is very much of inspirational to me.
Nice. Speaking of inspiration, I also asked if you could send us a few songs or compositions to play. Maybe you could choose one right now to play, maybe one that has inspired you, and then afterwards, after we listen to it, I would like you to elaborate on it, why you chose them.
Let's do the first one.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
North Marsh Wind meets the window. I think I kind of took out the climax of the song, of the composition, but for people who want to find it, what were we listening to right now?
It's from Action Pyramid. It's really, I don't really like the artist name, but I forgot his real name. But you can find it if you look on Bandcamp under Action Pyramid. It's a field recordist from the UK. And this whole record, like this intro or what we listen to is maybe not the most interesting. But what you heard, these singing sounds, are wind harps that he puts outside.
Oh, wow.
In the field, and then he records that. So basically the place is also the composition, which is what I really like about it, because it is not doing a lot of post-production, let's say. So putting a physical installation somewhere, letting the wind do its thing, letting the insects fly by, letting the birds come. And those are the compositions. So it's interventions in the field, which I really like about it.
Yeah, it's actually a type of composition that I've heard. It's common actually for some people to this style of composition, because it's for me it's when you let, it's like a live recording basically.
Yeah.
And no post edits.
Yeah.
Basically. Where would you love to work in the future? Because you were saying you came back to the source, the Netherlands. Are there any certain places or environments in the Netherlands that you would like to work?
I think
sorry for interfering.
Yeah,
Did you work in the IJsselmeer already?
No. Which could there at some point there was an opportunity, but it didn't really happen. But I would love that. That would be nice. But where on the IJsselmeer? You know?
Yeah, there's so many options.
IJsseloog, or you know, where they dump all the contaminated soil.
I don't know.
So yeah, I would love to work with that, but also more. What I would still love to do is make a work with people who work in national parks. So, for example, I really love the Kennemer Duinen on the west side of the country near the sea. And I would love to talk to people who manage that sort of area, because I'm always interested in.
I have a friend of mine who's a ranger. So.
Oh, really? Yeah. So, because how do they determine the paths, or how do they determine what we get to see when we walk there, and what is closed off, and what are the choices that are made in that? You know, I think that would be interesting. But I've been thinking about how could that become a work? What sort of work is that?
True, and of course we have to respect the nature itself or the environment you're working with. How do you do that? How in what sense do you try to not disturb the ecosystem that you're working with or giving voice to? How do you do this?
Yeah, this is super difficult, of course, because there is a sort of colonial, like even just in field recording or listening, there it could be seen as a colonial practice. All the words that we use for it, capturing, all these things are all. You could say that is a colonial practice in a way. So there is like deep listening in the Pauline Oliveros sense is a way of attuning to the landscape before you press record. And learning what the sounds are that you have, that you capture, quote unquote. These sorts of things. Not trying to not leave anything behind.
Because you, for example, when you were on the Arctic Circle, you were brought there with a group of other scientists.
Scientists and artists?
And artists?
Yeah, mostly artists. Also a lot of people who work in education. So in US universities, they came there. So this was a residency called the Arctic Circle, where you sail around Svalbard, so Spitsbergen. For 2 weeks with a group of people, and it was very interesting.
Yeah, because I overheard in an interview done by a lady, I forgot her name, on Echo
Box,
that you went off on a night and went to on a smaller boat.
Yeah,
Was it
so
to do?
the problem was we wanted to the work was about the imminent or is about the imminent deep sea mining in Svalbard off of the coast.
Of the minerals and
Yeah,
all the,
but the whole problem with that is how do you make a workaround about something which is going to happen 3 to 6 kilometers under the sea
level.
Yeah. So we and we wanted to then capture the essence of what is now still there. So we also wanted to do a lot of field recording to get a sense of the place. But when you're on a boat, even the small masted boat that we were on, it still makes a lot of noise just for the cooling of
The
it,
engine.
etc. The engine, etc., etc. So but also even if it's laying still overnight, you want your food to last 2 weeks, so there has to be some sort of motor running to provide that cooling. So
Even on the Arctic Circle.
even in the Arctic,
my brain is like, what?
Good point. Yeah, we could just put it on deck. Like, what's the problem?
Okay.
So we went on a smaller boat, like a dinghy, one of those, and we went out with Sarah, who's wonderful. She's the expedition leader. They do this once or twice every year with different groups of artists. And we basically took turns because there's also polar bears. So one of us was, or two of us were sleeping. The other one was awake. And then also listening underwater if we heard something. And then just before we were about to get back, at some point I woke up because I was the last one to go to sleep. I woke up and there was this whole thing going on because we almost went into an iceberg that was next to the boat.
Titanic.
Yeah. And after that, there was a beluga whale, a lot of beluga whales. And then funnily enough, when we went back to the bigger ship, everyone was having their breakfast. And then this whole family of belugas came.
Wow.
And I have to say the sound of hunting belugas is something so monstrous that I will never forget it. Like it's a very violent sound, but they're lovely creatures.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. How do you stay in touch with the people that are interested in your works? Because do you use a newsletter? Do you use a vlog? Can people reach out to you for example, now we're talking a lot about your works in general.
Yeah.
How do you do this?
Yeah, we're of course in this weird sort of in-between time. We used to use Facebook in the 2010s and now we don't know. So I do stuff I put updates on Blue Sky and Mastodon because that's the more ethical thing. But then there's still a lot of followers on Instagram and I do a newsletter. I would love to just have one thing. I think we all would want that. So can we please come to a consensus?
Let's try. Let's do our best. How much of your time do you spend on researching before you start creating a concept? And are there stages where development is still ongoing while the creative part is being completed? As in, let's give it like, of course, there's development during the whole process of completion, of course, of presentation, but
you're talking about installations.
The installation or research, like the researchal parts, like because like for now, you were giving an example of the Arctic Circle. While being there, you of course you're archiving a lot of material, and when the presentation was done, was there, because for how I see it, of course, there's always this process where you have to get, they call it kill your darlings and stuff like, okay, this is not this is not of essence. Are you in that process like the whole time?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, especially with that work called Another Deep that came out of this research and residency on the deep sea mining. We had a lot of steps in between. We did a pre-presentation at Sonic Act in Amsterdam festival. We did a research here in Rotterdam at V2 where we presented a work in progress. And even now, because that became like an installation and a audiovisual piece, so with 3 screens, projection, and a kinetic sculpture. every time we perform or play it or present it, we are able to change things on the timeline or change a scene, etc. So yes, that's one of the nice things about working in the digital realm. If we look at it from the other side, that these edits are quite easy to make, and you can really easily test things with an audience, etc.
Okay, nice. Do you have any hobbies that help you stay focused?
Making music,
Nice.
but it's also work. But I see it as a hobby as well, and I go back and forth between: do I bring my synthesizers home for in the night, or do I do it during the day for work? And this balance. I haven't found a balance for that.
No.
It's also depending on the mood I'm in, and cycling out on a Sunday and bringing a book, and then.
So you don't bring your feed recording by yourself?
I used to, I used to do a lot of weekend field recordings in places that interested me.
Yeah.
But then I'm also again working,
Yeah. So you have to be careful.
Because at some point I was
blurry.
I was going every weekend to this place just outside of Amsterdam, where they were planning in the 70s a nuclear power plant, and then every Sunday I would come there, and I thought, wait, this is another project. Why am I? So yeah.
What would you tell any aspiring artist that would love to elevate his works whilst ensuring the environmental impact is taken into in account in future projects? So if I was an inspiring artist and I've never worked with the theme of preservation of nature or the ecology, environmental ecology.
I think thinking about it and thinking well about the actions that you're doing, I think it's most of the work. But don't let that stop you to make the work. Because, for example, when I was working on peer pressure, I was presenting this in an aquarium. An aquarium also has this colonial history of bringing things from afar and putting them in
all these exotic fish that are no longer extinct.
But I thought about it, and in the end I decided to still present it in an aquarium. But because at some point there's always a counter argument to not do something. Think about it well, but don't let it stop you for that.
Nice.
And it's very hard balance.
Point made. You recently released an album that way. Actually, I wanted to talk a lot more, but we only have 1 hour. Sorry.
Yeah, we talked about my project.
Yeah. You recently released an album called Flounder Maps. Speaking of making more music, please tell us how this came to be, how long the completion took, and why you wanted to share this bundle of compositions with us, listeners. And
the bundle of compositions that I brought today.
The ones that are actually on the record. On the record. Yeah.
I think
because were they all made in a time frame? Did you collect them during process of research, or what was that?
Yeah, I used to make music for a long time, and I was looking for a voice of my own. And then during COVID, I had the time and mental space to do away with a lot of the tools that I was using for
killing darlings.
The killing darlings, yeah, and then rethink how I make music. And at the same time, I was also field recording a lot, so these two came together. And reading a lot of eco-fiction, so
nice
books by Jeff van der Meer, for example, who's a American author who writes a lot. Basically they're sci-fi stories, but in his stories, nature the ecologies have their own undisputed ways, and it's and the protagonists or the humans in this story are always trying to figure out how that works, but will never really get there, which is and so it's those stories really inspired me, and that's what what ended up on this record. I have a feeling that the next record might be more field recording based, because this is still very cinematic. I have a feeling that the next record might be more location based, but who knows? So I don't know yet what that will.
And how long did it take you to choose and collect all the ones that made it?
I did. I started working on the style of tracks that are on here in 2022, I think, or 2021, when Mea Kusma, Belgian record label, asked me to provide a track for their compilation. And later, Anterior Insula, the label that this album also came out with, also asked me to do a track. And then I had those 2 tracks. And they were both kind of about algae and technology, and in my mind painted this very vivid picture, and I started to fill that out. And I think it was done in 2023, and then it took basically I had a miss thing with the label, didn't really work out, and then with Interior Insula and Le Pacifique, 2 Brussels-based labels, one Flemish speaking, one French speaking, which is doesn't happen a lot.
No.
These sorts of
cooperations.
So it was very nice to together with them put this record out.
Nice.
My first record.
Let's first we're gonna. I put the wrong side. Hey, there goes the I wanna put the last track of the album, which is Leer van de laatste dingen. Can you translate this to English?
Yeah, I think it's because it's the title of like when you read the Bible.
Yeah,
I'm not religious.
No.
There's still this the last things that happen before the end of the world.
Nice.
That's
dystopian. Here we go. We're gonna listen to this track, and then I have
with
the
hope.
last question.
It's also with hope,
of course. Yes. The wrong headphone. Okay. Yes. So that was learn from the last things. Nice. It's not that dystopian actually. For me, it wasn't. It was. I actually played it in one of my sets, and I was looking for a track that kind of could transition.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh man, this is the perfect track. So I have
wonderful.
Thank you for it.
Yeah.
Before we go into the we leave with another of your the tracks that you brought for us. I have a question that I always ask I ask my guests to answer from the last one, the last guest from the previous show. So the previous guest asked what the impact the change of seasons have on your works. In general. Of course, you work with him. It's funny because he didn't know. And I didn't know you were coming because actually we had a guest who couldn't make it for unfortunately the last show. But this is funny that you work with the environment and
so
cool.
Kind of
things.
Yeah, I think I generally feel better when it's sunny out.
Don't
It's
we
not,
all? Don't we all?
Yeah, don't we all? But then what I really realize is when I start to work or even go outside, even if it's for hobby activities, as you were referencing to them, that it's not so bad. Like it's very easy to sit inside and you think that it's all doom and gloom outside, but as soon as you go outside and you go somewhere, you undertake this activity, you start to feel so much better, and it's also way less rainy than you might have thought while looking at your
or listening to the
app.
ticking on your phone.
Exactly, yeah.
on your window, like
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Nice. And what would you want to ask the next guest? What would that question be?
Ooh, that's interesting. Didn't think about that yet. But maybe, maybe how the environment. We don't know who's coming next, so it could be quite open, as in how the environment inspires them.
Okay. An environment can be environment in the broad sense.
In the broad sense.
In the broad sense.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. What do you want to leave the listeners with? I have it in front of me. What are we going to listen to before we end the show?
Can we play the full track or no? I don't think so, huh?
I don't see anyone coming up, so we're gonna try to play the full track and then we'll write it out. And
then I would choose the last one.
Yeah, the last one.
Yeah.
So this is I'm gonna let you introduce or extroduce.
It's a track called Mount Hadamard National Park Part 5.
Nice.
By Matthias Puech, Puech, and he is also part of GRM, who do a lot of they make GRM tools, which is this toolkit for sound. But he's also a field recordist and did a lot about how you can translate natural sounds into systems that then sound again, and the other way around. So this track really encapsulated for me. It has a nice crescendo.
Nice.
You can tell on the.
Yeah, I can tell by the wave file. I want to thank you so much, Mark IJzerman, for coming to the show, for sharing your process, your thought process, your creative process, coming over, of course, because you live in Amsterdam, and for people who want to find your works online before we go into the
that's Mark IJzerman. So that's Mark with a K and then IJzerman.com.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.